The thing that bothers me most about all of this is no one went to jail. So I put together a special financial crimes unit to say, go figure out how this happened, who did what, and those that are guilty of criminal behavior need to go to jail. How else do you explain to the American people there's cause-effect relationships here in which you're going to hold people accountable?
One of the big pieces of evidence we found was we found documents that showed that banks knew that a lot of the loans that they were putting in the mortgage securities they were selling to investors throughout the world, that they were defective. And even though they knew that, they told investors they weren't. They affirmatively represented that they were good loans while they had information that they were quite something else. And even though the banks have admitted wrongdoing and have now paid $40 billion in fines, the Department of Justice has yet to hold one single individual accountable for that wrongdoing, civilly or criminally.
I think the Department of Justice is scared and still is scared today to prosecute large companies. They don't want to do it. And so what replaced prosecuting companies criminally and what replaced going after individuals at the highest levels were settlements for money. Corporations wrote checks and settled with the government and then promised not to do it again. And there are big problems with this regime. The main problem is that corporations keep doing wrong things. They are recidivists. And you've seen this with Wells Fargo, and you've seen it with JP Morgan, and you've seen it with BP and Goldman and Pfizer, and the list goes on and on. This is a regime that's broken.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where we're almost desensitized to fraud at the big banks in Wall Street. We've come to expect it. Of course it happened again. Of course it happened again. So just a quick litany. As we sit here today, the fraud at Wells Fargo is unwinding itself, but we know they opened millions of accounts fraudulently. We know for sure that the big banks around the world rigged the global currency markets to some extent, and they rigged the LIBOR market to some extent. And we've got emails where they talk about how they rigged it. And we know also that shareholders at JP Morgan Chase were misled about the degree of risks that JP Morgan Chase was taking onto its balance sheet pursuant to the London whale trades in their London office. So those are just, that's just like the last few years, right? Then you put on top of that all the settlements that have come out from the financial crisis. And what you hear is just a steady drumbeat of fraud after fraud after fraud at these mega banks.